and welcome everyone to Rent and Creation's special debate program. This debate is special mainly because we have a couple of high schoolers who have joined us to debate on the most current topic. I would also say it is the most, I guess, the hot topic of this year. We've all seen challenges, multiple challenges, I guess, in this year. One of the main challenge being the pandemic that we are all in. Unfortunately, it's been, I guess, close to 7 months, and I believe at this point in time, people have started to kind of live with it right now. It's affected all of us. So I, along with my partners in Rent and Creations, thought it'll be great to understand from a student, especially high schooler point of view, how will this pandemic, how is it actually impacting them? And what are some of their thoughts as to how they cope with it? So that's how this idea was born, to have this high school debate. And we are very excited because we have highly credible moderators who have joined us in our, I guess, in our little journey here. And I thank them from the bottom of my heart. Before I invite and introduce the moderators, I do want to talk a little bit about Rent and Creations. Rent and Creations is an initiative that is being started by a couple of us women here at Renton Highlands. We are all very passionate about creativity, entertainment, and education. We have hosted quite a few book reviews on our channel for kids and also some special programs around entertainment as well. So this is, we are very proud to have gotten here. We do have a lot of support from our community here at Renton Highlands and around in the greater Seattle area. Without further ado, let me actually start by introducing our moderators today. I'll start with Srinivas Kadamji. He has been an educator for 33 years, taught in India, New Zealand, and last 20 years in the US. Most of his teaching has been in the middle school. He has also, in addition to teaching, held many administrative positions. He's been an assistant principal for the last 10 years, and he is an assistant principal in the North Shore School District. He's also vice president for a 750-year-old, yes, you heard it right, 750-year-old US branch of religious organization called Shri Parkala Mutt, based in Mysore. He's a guide and mentor for GR Educational Trust and BT Seva Seattle branches. He's also a freelance priest. He's actively engaged in mentoring Indian youth and adults with academic, social, and emotional challenges. Welcome, Srinivas ji, and we really, really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Vijay. It is doing the fantastic work, and I would like to wish all participants all the best with their efforts. It's a beautiful topic. It's a challenging topic at the same time. It's a burning topic, as you said, and we'd love to hear your perspective. That way, you are not only educating us, but also educating rest of the community also, which is going to be very powerful. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your debate.
Our next moderator, Archana Iyer Sunilji. Archana Sunil ji is a mother of 2 teenagers and a small business owner. She helps her clients navigate the health and Medicare insurance arena. She continues her lifelong passion for community service and organizing in different ways, volunteering on school PTSA boards, hosting international nights, producing and directing children's play based on Indian history, coordinating food distribution service for various shelters in the area, organizing nonprofit fundraisers, and moderating talks and educational workshops on topics related to Indian history and culture. Archana ji finds that her kids have been her best teachers. Totally agree with you there, Archana ji. And she's always fascinated by their wisdom and ideas. She's very passionate about preventing animal cruelty and help promote plant-based eating through her many endeavors. Welcome, Archana ji, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Vidyaji. I'm thrilled to be here. And just like you said, I do tell my friends often that my kids have taught me many things, including learning to consider other perspectives. So, and again, I'm always in awe of what kids and young adults, such as the ones we have today, have to say. And COVID has been in the news, coming up close to a year now, and we've heard and read so many messages, data, opinions, all pretty confusing to say the least. We just play along, we do our best to be safe, to keep others safe, but which is what makes this debate today even more fascinating is, for me, is because we will finally hear COVID-related messages and opinions from two perspectives with our leaders of tomorrow, and as they see it unfolding in front of them. So before we get started here, I just want to share a quick bite from the story of our great Guru Adi Shankaracharya, who, as you know, traversed the length and breadth of India by feet, winning every debate on philosophy. One famous debate was with Mandana Mishra, where a garland of flowers was placed around each of their necks. The point being, whose ever flowers wilt first, the garland wilts first, they are deemed an automatic loser of the debate. Now, why flower garlands? Think about it and remind me to give you the reason for that at the end of the show. Best to all of you. Don't forget to have fun today. That's what matters the most. And with that, I give it back to Vidyaji.
For that, and that's an amazing little narration that you had there, and we are eager to find out about that at the end of the show. And the topic, it's in this pandemic that we are experiencing today with changing landscape, meaning a lot of changes. I can't go into KFC without a mask anymore. So I can't even go into a public park that's crowded without a mask anymore. And I want to avoid going out in summer in Seattle. Can you believe that? So with all that, how are we coping? That's one. Of course, we're coping, but high schoolers thinking from their perspective, is this a gained opportunity? Because there are a lot of avenues like this debate itself that has brought us together, even during this pandemic, using technology, discussing this, like I said, the most important, I guess, the hot topic of the day. Or is it a lost opportunity, meaning I can't even go to my own graduation? How is that fair? Really eager to see what these kids have to say. So without further delay, I'm going to be handing this over to the moderators. Please take it away.
With Team 1, lost opportunity during these times of COVID. Our first speaker is Ms. Neha Suresh. Neha will be a sophomore at Liberty High School this fall. Some of her hobbies include reading and learning Bharatanatyam. She's interested in psychology and history. Oh, yay, my kind. She spends time teaching Bharatanatyam, wow, and just generally volunteers where she can. Welcome, Neha.
Hi. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Rented Creations, the monitors, and the viewers for providing us with the platform for our voices to be heard. COVID-19 has changed everyone's lives, leaving us in a post-apocalyptic type world. No one goes outside, and we're all wearing masks. This pandemic is something none of us could have ever imagined. COVID-19 caused damage that could take years to bounce back from, if that's possible at all. We found that this damage can be categorized into multiple arguments, and I will be presenting 3 of them. Our first argument is that the pandemic has caused significant loss of opportunity for teens because of financial harm and general economic instability. According to Pew Research, the American workforce has about 160 million people in 2019. Since the pandemic has started, the United States Department of Labor has reported that there could have been as many as 40 million people who lost their jobs, which is about a fourth of the workforce of this country, just vanishing. Unemployment in the COVID-19 pandemic has been extremely damaging. The nearly 15% joblessness rate at the height of the pandemic was higher than at any time in the past 70 years. Unemployment rose greater in the 3 months of COVID-19 than it did in 2 years of the Great Recession. This has 2 unique impacts that this argument brings us. This has 2 unique impacts that this argument brings to the debate, which my third speaker will flesh out more. The first is that this economic instability and parental job loss has extremely significant mental health impacts on teenagers. Quoting the American Psychological Association, the worsening economy can impact funds for public schools and community health centers, which are seeing their budgets constrained just as their services are needed most by our nation's children, youth, and families. The APA states that teens are particularly vulnerable during this time because they're going through critical stages in their development. These changes can have, quote, profound and lasting effects on our mental health on the mental health of our youth, often causing problems in terms of anxiety, lowered self-esteem, and other emotional difficulties, end quote. Research from the Brookings Institution shows that parental unemployment during teenage years can have long-term consequences for the psychological well-being of teens in adult life. Additionally, research from Purdue University shows that this job loss not only has long-term mental health impacts, but it can also affect a child's college aspirations and increase their chances of needing to repeat grades or being suspended or expelled. The second impact of these economic effects is that this economic instability has an extremely damaging effect on lower income students. The United States Department of Health and Human Services reports that over 36% of teens in the United States live in low income households. For students in these households, the shock of job loss is much more severe than it is for students who live in higher income households. Our second argument is that the pandemic has negatively impacted the education system. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic caused a total shutdown of schools in the United States and instead opted for online learning. Many students find it difficult to learn online and sometimes can't handle or afford it. According to the UN, some 23.8 million additional children and youth may drop out or not have access to school next year due to the pandemic's economic impact alone. These students are missing out on an education, which leaves them in a less than ideal situation when it comes to employment later on in life. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education states that in 2001, 45% of high school dropouts faced unemployment. They're also more likely to rely on public welfare and health services and are 3.5 times more likely to be incarcerated in their life. There's also a psychological impact. The DOE states that, quote, dropping out of schools impacts students' self-esteem, psychological well-being, faced with the reality that they lack skills and knowledge to fulfill their desires. This not only impacts their day-to-day education, COVID-19 impacts our future college decisions. According to Forbes, college admissions processes are expected to become more complex because everything is online, and due to this, many students are opting to defer college acceptance and taking gap years. According to the Scholarship Hub, gap years are risky. You'll be a year behind everyone else your age, you could lose academic momentum, and you risk wasting a lot of time if you aren't actively working the entire year, none of which looks good on your CV. Making sure your CV is impressive is important because it's often your first and the most direct communication you'll have with a potential employer, and an unimpressive CV harms job opportunities. Another major loss is the lack of face-to-face communication. While the technical part of our education can be translated online, there are some things that we lose. One of these things is the teacher-student relationship. Headspace.org states that you can access more information and richer understanding through teachers and other students' body language and voice, which is why students may feel more comfortable and like they're learning more in a standard setting. I myself can attest to this. I personally feel like I'm missing out on a lot of my education, especially in the science, fine arts, and language-based classes. Concepts that my teachers would have taught me in a matter of an hour instead took days for me to grasp. The pandemic also unfairly impacts lower income students and limits their access to education. According to the Federal Communications Commission, 19 million Americans, or about 6% of the population, still lack access to fixed broadband services at threshold speeds. Considering the fact that everything is moved online, this is a major disadvantage for students in low-income areas, especially in areas that can't afford to provide students with mobile hotspots and laptops. Our final argument is that simply people are dying. Death, no matter the circumstance, is tragic. In the United States, there are 5.97 million active cases, and 183,000 people have unfortunately passed. Death, especially unexpected death, can cause psychological damage for anyone, and especially in teens. According to the Royal College of Psychiatrists in the UK, sudden death in a family can cause long-term problems like depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, as well as long-lasting trauma. And that's what this pandemic is. Many people were taken from the world too soon. While the death rate doesn't look as high as infection rates, each of those data points is a person. And with family, friends, and other loved ones they left behind, a person who still had more life to live. and that is absolutely devastating. And today, our team is wearing black to mourn their loss. All in all, the pandemic has taken away many opportunities, but taken away things we need to succeed. And as teens, our future looks uncertain, but the impact of the pandemic has made our future foggier than any of us could have ever expected. Thank you.
Awesome. I have a quick question. Those were all some great data points. I'm trying to understand what you mean by how the funding to community centers affects teens' mental health.
Well, the insecurity of not having access to those centers and the uncertainty is very damaging to the mental health of teens.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Neha.
Acknowledge, Neha, when you mentioned that, it's just an acknowledgement, okay? Your thoughtfulness to say that, you all, are wearing black.
Yes.
So on team 2, speaking on gained opportunity. So the first speaker is Lakshmi. Lakshmi is a sophomore at Issaquah High School this fall. Lakshmi will be, actually, as a matter of fact. So some of her hobbies include learning Kuchipudi and martial arts. She is interested in computer science and programming and learns JavaScript in her free time. She also enjoys spending her time volunteering at a youth lead volunteer organization that she co-founded called Rise Up, that aims to help aid the homeless in Seattle and Chicago. This is an amazing resume, Lakshmi. You have more passion in more areas. That's amazing. On the classical side, on this side, the service side, it's a great combination. So, love to hear you. It's you have an impressive resume. Let's take the floor, and we look forward to hearing you.
Thank you to the moderators for the warm introduction, and a big thank you to Renton Creations for giving me this opportunity to voice my opinion. There is a famous quote, and it says that sometimes the bad things that happen in our lives put us directly on the path to the best things that will ever happen to us. Such truthful words were spoken by New York Times bestselling author Nicole Reed. I find this quote to be exceptionally relevant to the times that we are living in. Mainstream media, our peers, and even ourselves at times often view this pandemic as a completely negative situation. The fact of the matter is that our generation pre-pandemic began to lose sight of what truly matters most and formed a distorted view of what holds value in our lives. An amazing example of this is our mental health. High schoolers are used to pulling all-nighters, having less time to spend time with our families, and constantly worrying about school. Expectation to achieve greatness academically at whatever cost, which has slowly risen over the years, is extremely detrimental to our well-being. The effects of this can be seen in higher rates of suicide, mental illness, eating disorders, and many more medical calamities that continue to plague youth all into their adulthood. However, with the pandemic forcing us all out of our school, our daily routines, and social settings, we've had more time to evaluate and take time to better our well-being. I can say this confidently that all of us have experienced some kind of change in the way you see the world, yourself, and or others. For me, I saw this change occur through my relationships with my family members. Before the pandemic, I would barely have time to spend time with my family during the school week. However, when Washington State entered its stay home, stay healthy phase, Washingtonians across the state were enforced to stay home. Now our entire family is working remotely in one way or another. And because of this, we are able to spend more time together, whether it be going on a drive, watching a movie, or playing games. The Johns Hopkins Center for Adolescent Health further reinforces this idea of the benefits of increased family time by stating that having more time together as a family also produces developmental benefits. Families can now start doing things they may not have time to do before, like playing board games after dinner or starting new family traditions. This extra time that we had all gained is a rare occurrence, and many families across the world, including my own, saw that the quarantine had given them a golden opportunity to strengthen their relationships. Furthermore, we've all seen a positive impact on our sleep schedules. Teens who are used to pulling all-nighters and getting less than 7 hours of sleep daily have been able to now regain the energy and improve their sleep cycle. Unfortunately, the modern school system forces students to wake up early and then gives so much homework that students are forced to stay up late into the night. Johns Hopkins Center for Adolescent Health also states that adolescent sleep clocks are programmed to go sleep later in the night and then wake up earlier in the day, than children's sleep clocks are. When we are able to follow the natural rhythm of life and our bodies are able to get sufficient rest, we see that we are more motivated to work, as well as happier. To add on, another valuable benefit of this quarantine is less stress and anxiety. With schools being closed and switching to a remote learning system, tests and homework are no longer as stressful as they were prior to the pandemic, thus allowing students to learn the material without the pressure of high-point exams. The lack of stressful tests also allows students to work at a pace that is sufficient for them, and then take the time to go over difficult material. Self-care, as well such as home fitness, has also skyrocketed ever since the implementation of lockdown. An article by BBC states that yoga classes have taken to Zoom, and the sales of exercise equipment, downloads of fitness apps are all on the rise, skyrocketing up to 55%, especially in youth, across youth. Students have been given the opportunity to maintain a healthy lifestyle and fitness without having to spend hundreds of dollars on gym memberships. The online fitness landscape has been improved by leaps and bounds, and this will prove to be a valuable industry in the future, allowing people who may not have access to a gym or physical classes to maintain their fitness and keep a healthy lifestyle. Now, though the opposition may say that we've lost social interactions with our friends and peers, thus affecting our mental well-being negatively, with the loss of that, we gain the opportunity to better our relationships with our family. A famous quote says that friends come and go, but family is forever. And it is vital that we have strong relationships with our family, because at the end of the day, our families are the ones that will always be there to pick us up when we fall. And to refute a possible point from the opposition, though online school is seen to be an inefficient alternative to in-person classes, it has many long-term benefits. For example, the University of Illinois states that studying online requires more self-motivation and time management skills, because you will spend a lot of time on your own without someone physically close to keep you focused on deadlines. It will help you become more self-motivated, a trait that is useful for the workplace and beyond. Instead of looking at online school as a negative, we should look at the long-term benefits. Online learning has given youth the opportunity to create and maintain skills that are necessary for real life. We're able to be more independent and more self-motivated learners and take responsibility for our education. And quarantine has given us the opportunity to better our sleep cycles, create habits, and learn skills necessary for life, improve our fitness, decrease our stress and anxiety levels, and strengthen our bonds with family. And mature generations look back at this turbulent time in our lives. Our generation should not be remembered only as a generation that lost everything they had. We should be remembered as a generation that even though we lost so much, we used our ingenuity and creativity with the opportunities we gained to better ourselves, our life, and our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Excellent. Yeah. And real life skills that you have gained during this process.
Yes, for sure. So for example, because we've all been forced to do online school. With online school, you're not meeting a teacher, or you're not interacting with friends. So there's no one really there who's going to remind you about tests or remind you there's an assignment due. And it's really up to you to be, maintain and learn that skill of being self-motivated to do your work without someone telling you, or remembering that you have a test, and being an independent learner and without having a teacher or someone constantly reminding you. And these kind of skills are very, they're really important for the workplace, because in the workplace, you're not going to have people constantly reminding you or sending you emails and texts and stuff, telling you you have a project due or a meeting or something. It's up to you to really remember those events. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
We have Kriti Narendran. Miss Kriti will be a virtual freshman at Interlake High School this fall. She has been dividing her time with academics, Bharatanatyam, singing, swimming, and martial arts. Clearly, time is not a challenge for you, Kriti. She loves public speaking and is a member of Toastmasters International. She has co-led a camp, Puente Español, with her sister, teaching Spanish to kids. Hi, Kriti, welcome. Please tell us what you have in your mind.
First, I'd like to thank Renton Creations and the moderators for this opportunity. William Gregory Page once said, 3 things that never come back: the spent arrow, the spoken word, and the lost opportunity. As we heard from Neha, there's clear evidence that as a result of the economic crisis caused by COVID-19, several opportunities are lost. I noticed that my opponent said that people now work at home because of the pandemic and have more time together. That may not necessarily be true, because CBS News report on August 5th, 2020 said that based on research by Harvard Business School and NYU Stern School of Business, people have started working 48.5 minutes more per day, and some are even heading for a burnout. This is because people who work at home are not realizing the balance between work and home and the difference, and so they're constantly working and could even head for a burnout. My opponent also said that families are spending more time together and it's leading to happier families. This is also not true. In South China, there's been the highest reported divorce rate, and we have to think about the plight of kids with divorced parents because they're constantly being tossed around between the homes of their moms and dads. COVID-19 has had the most significant impact on the sports world since World War II. Many important and awaited events like the 2020 Summer Olympics Tokyo have been indefinitely delayed. The Olympics has only been canceled 3 times, once during World War I and twice during World War II. The delay and possible cancellation can mean a $5.7 billion economic loss for Tokyo, says a study from Kansai University. However, it's not just an economic loss, but also shattered dreams. Though most of the athletes understand the delay, they sympathize with one another. Bradley Atkinson, a former jumper for the US, said, quote, "For a lot of people, this is what they live for. There's definitely a lot of hurt and heartbreak that comes with it, and I understand that," end quote. Most athletes train for decades for just one race or game. They have dreams to stand on that podium or set a new time or just participate. Sports is not a long career, and most athletes are only in their prime for a few years. This means that the delay of the Olympics could cost many athletes their dreams and goals. You may think that the Olympics only affects the athletes, but these events inspire kids and make them aspire to be like the athletes. It is reported that following the Olympics, there's a spike in sporting activity by older people who had given up their sport. I myself have been inspired by Michael Phelps and other women's swimmers like Katie Ledecky during the Pac-12 qualifiers. You guessed it right, I'm a swimmer. Swimming, like any sport, consumes a lot of time and money. Now, because of the pandemic, I haven't swam in over 5 months. I can only wonder how my time would have improved. Swimming is not just a hobby, but also an opportunity. Thousands of high schoolers see sports scholarships as their path to a good job and life. NCAA statistics say that less than 2% of their student athletes go on to be professional athletes. The rest use their scholarships to get higher education. The pandemic has deprived high schoolers a chance to be observed by college recruiters. Summer is now coming to an end. Children have missed so many opportunities. Summer camps help everyone find what they're good at, what they enjoy, and a possible career. There are camps online, but a survey conducted by the EDUCAUSE Center for Analysis and Research, with over 40,000 students from 118 US institutions, said that over 70% prefer face-to-face learning sessions. I am also a dancer. I've learned Bharatanatyam for many years and was scheduled to do my Arangetram in June. It was a lot of work to prepare. I had 5 a.m. Yes, you heard that right. 5 a.m. classes twice every week and was also training to build stamina. I was utterly devastated when I heard that we don't know the ifs, hows, and whens of my Arangetram, and if I will ever dance to a live audience in the near future. Sports and culture play a big role in anyone's life. My 82-year-old grandma still feels proud about the shooting medal she won as a teen, and my grandfather's face always lit up when he talked about cricket. These memories are important, and it feels like a page has been taken from our book of life. The gravity of the extent of loss has not sunk in, but people are affected in unexplainable ways, whether it be a lost family member, a missed opportunity, or the state of isolation so many elderly people are in. Everyone is facing loss. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you a question that might get me in trouble. So do your parents work too many hours a day? You don't have to answer that. That's okay. That was just a rhetorical question. That's all right. You don't have to answer that. Thanks, Kriti. Good job. Srinivasji, back to you.
Thank you, Kriti. Good job. Speaker 2 from Team 2 is on Gained Opportunity. Rishank is a rising senior in the International School of Beaverton. Some of his hobbies include composing music, playing the drums, and biking. He volunteers at the Oregon Health and Science University and is a science ambassador for the Oregon National Primate Research Center. He also provides service at the Oregon Humane Society for Sheltered Animals. Rishank, I'm envious of you. Okay, your passion, for the music and the playing the drums, and more importantly, being a science graduate, coming from a science background, I can say your passion in all those two areas. Now you're just amazing. You have a good future, my friend. Go ahead and take the floor, Rishank.
Before I begin, I would like to thank the moderators and Renton Creations for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Although COVID-19 has had a few negative impacts on me, its benefits definitely outweigh them. Let's start off with the fact that quarantine has brought high schoolers an abundance of free time. We have had less stress due to remote learning and more time to spend with family. And we have also been granted time to take a step back from the hectic day-to-day schedule of waking up early in the morning, spending 6 to 7 hours at school, coming back home, spending hours on homework, going to extracurricular activities, and on and on. We've all gained the opportunity to learn more things, pursue interests, learn new hobbies, and develop passions. Personally, I've always been into music, and I've been playing the drums for over 8 years. But besides my passion for drums, I really wanted to learn how to compose music using software. Quarantine gave me the opportunity to finally try out something I'd been wanting to get into for months. Up till now, I've created over 6 different songs, and this is just within the past 2 months. Being an avid musician, I've also wanted to hone my craft and improve as a musician overall, and this led me to constantly running after time. Now with the situation at hand, time itself has run to me, and I'm able to focus on my passion and also strive to learn more and delve deeper into the realm of composition. The first speaker on the opposition indicated that many students have opted to take gap years, and it could be detrimental if students don't make themselves busy during this time. But inevitably, every teenager will persevere and find at least one, if not multiple things to keep themselves busy and soothe their curious natures. Not just me, but millions of high schoolers worldwide, including the ones in this debate, have definitely taken this opportunistic time to gain important life skills and pursue their personal interests. Students have started to learn skills such as financing, cooking, hardware, coding, and many more. The number of students enrolled in online courses such as coding and artificial intelligence and other courses have increased by over 50%. These skills will prove to be beneficial in the long term, as the future will thrive in the technological realm. Furthermore, students are able to reinforce their current curriculum with an online landscape. Due to the switch to online schooling, there has been a rise in opportunities that are reducing disparities in the long term. For instance, students now have the opportunity to gain an education that is tailored specific to their needs by supplementing their classroom education with online material. For example, a kid who suffers from a learning disability can now learn the material at a different pace and style that allows them to understand the material. Many students can now access virtual content that provides them with gifted and advanced learning opportunities that are usually unavailable in small schools. With the digital curriculum, it is easier to help kids reach their full potential. Concurrently, resource-poor districts that don't have access to many textbooks can now use online versions for their students. With continued access to this, many of the inequities in the education system can be reduced. In the long term, this will be beneficial for the futures of high schoolers since they will have a higher chance to thrive in their educational career regardless of their social status, all thanks to the remote learning model developed as a result of COVID-19. In addition, students now have more time to learn in depth about certain material that interests them. With online classes lasting an average of 1 hour per class, students now have more time to focus on their assignments and ask questions as well. For example, about 60% of high school students that took part in a national survey so that they feel that they have more time due to remote learning. Latak Briand from Luther Burbank High School said that, and I quote, now that life has kind of come to a standstill and school isn't occupying much of my time, thanks to remote learning, I've realized that I have learned insane amounts about myself, my goals, and the things I would like from life, such as more time for myself and improved bonds with my family. Through coronavirus, many of us are adapting to new technologies and creative solutions to conduct our lives. When our lives return to normal, we will definitely be better off than we were before COVID-19. Moving on to rebuttals. The opposition may say that thousands of people have died as a direct result of COVID-19. And yes, I acknowledge this is true and that it affects us mentally. But at the end of the day, the point of this debate is not what we lost or gained in general, but specifically about the opportunities that we lost or gained as high schoolers. People dying will ultimately not affect our opportunities. As someone who has personally lost a close family member in the midst of this pandemic, yes, I was sad, and yes, I did spend time to mourn, and my family was not able to attend her funeral. But at the end of the day, life goes on. The death of anyone, whether it's a family member or not, does not come into play when measuring the loss or gain of opportunities. There is nothing wrong with mourning, but my point is that the death of a loved one will make anyone sad, regardless of the environmental situation. It is important that we acknowledge the fact that we have been given so many opportunities, such as better mental health and more time to pursue interests. By learning and taking advantage of this unique situation, we're able to become the best versions of ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Rucham. Good points. I just have a question about, can you refer to something you did mention about, districts with less resources? So do you have a source, or maybe can you refer to a particular school district in Washington State or somewhere else? Have you come across something? You don't have, curious.
I don't know about Washington State, but personally, I live in Oregon. So I live in Beaverton School District, which is luckily more like, we have more source, we have more, we have better access to different things. But a school district close to me, which is the Portland School District, I know that they are not as, they don't have as high as a budget as we do. And I have friends from Portland School District, and this is what they've told me. They said, I know some, in the long term, I definitely do believe that online classes will benefit us.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I'm just wanted to see the resource from that and curious about that. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rashank. Next, we have Mr. Swadesh Sistla. Swadesh will be a sophomore at Lakeside this fall. He is interested in debate. Well, you're in the right place. Entrepreneurship, economics, and the path forward for society as a whole. He spends his time volunteering at BT Seva, participating in numerous entrepreneurial opportunities, and honing his debate craft with affectionate squabbles with his brother. Well, that's cute. You have to tell us what those squabbles are, but that's for another time. Come on, Swadesh.
My time starts now. You'd think the scenario was straight out of a horror movie. A deadly disease with no cure becoming a global pandemic, killing hundreds of thousands, sickening millions, and affecting billions of our world's citizens. But this is no horror movie. This is our new reality, a smothering future that crushes the opportunities that we hold dear. And there has been nobody who has paid the price more than our teenagers. Thank you so much, Rented Creations and the moderators, for this opportunity. We presented 5 main arguments today. It is my job to lay the impacts of all of them out so you can make your decision. Our first argument was that the pandemic has caused teens to lose opportunities because of financial harm and economic instability. Of the 160 million strong workforce of the United States, between 20 to 40 million people have lost their jobs in this pandemic, with unemployment rising to levels that haven't been seen since the Great Depression. There are 2 impacts that I request the moderators to note down. The first is that the pandemic has dangerous long and short-term mental health impacts on teens. Our evidence from the American Psychological Association proves that the loss of funding for education and community health resources has, quote, profound and lasting impacts on the mental health of our youth. end quote. Not only does this impact teens today, here and now, but our research from the Brookings Institute shows that the spike in parental unemployment can have, quote, long-term scarring effects, end quote, which will carry throughout a teenager's entire life. The second impact is that this economic instability is particularly damaging for the 36% of this country's teens living in low-income families. With many parents suddenly out of a job, households struggling to find basic needs such as food security or healthcare had been economically strangled. The losses of these jobs force many of these youths to forego a stable education path and losing those opportunities to take up jobs to put food on the table, jeopardizing their entire futures and those of their families. Could you imagine that dilemma, not knowing if your parents would be the next on this long list of people who have already lost their jobs, and you plus one to that number they broadcast on the news of the millions who have lost jobs already? Not knowing if you could even go to college because you need to feed your brothers and sisters? The second argument we brought forth was that the pandemic has removed many educational opportunities. Education is the most crucial opportunity there is in order to live for a better future. The impact of this is clear. The remote system causes significant attrition and loss of knowledge, but even if we put that aside, millions of people don't have access to the technology to engage in remote schooling. The United Nations has said that there are over 24 million more teenagers who won't have access to education. Again, as I said, the most crucial opportunity our society has to offer. And at least half of these dropouts are likely to face unemployment issues down the road. What greater opportunity loss could be there? Well, actually, the next one I'm going to be speaking about is that. Our third argument was regarding the death toll that this virus has had. I have been extremely fortunate to have good health during this time. I'm young and my family can afford to work from home, as I'm assuming many of us here. But for many of us who aren't as fortunate, many folks have had no choice but to expose themselves in order to make ends meet, and older members of their families might have to pay the ultimate price. Those lost years with a loved grandparent or a family friend cannot be measured with a couple minutes of extra board games. And while the opposition might say that this is not actually an opportunity, I count the opportunity to know my grandmother or grandfather a couple years longer quite important to me. And our evidence clearly shows the significant effects this has on teenage family members. Mental health, it works as a point on their side. It also works as a point on our side. The fourth argument we had is that the pandemic has destroyed many opportunities for young athletes. There are two main impacts you should note. The first is that the loss of sports can destroy entire careers. Teen athletes completely miss out, again, on educational opportunities to acquire sports scholarships, which gives so many youths a path to higher education, not to mention the lack of physical activity that this can encourage. The second impact is perhaps even more damaging. This pandemic has crushed the cause of inspiration for teens everywhere to be like their role models. So many of today's greatest athletes were once inspired by the stories of medal winners and Olympians before them, and our teens are deprived of that. Our final argument was regarding lost opportunities to engage in cultural traditions. Almost every culture in the world was born from human interaction, from the love and bonding that people inherently share. Ancient traditions ranging from storytelling, singing, dancing, to crucial life events like Arangetrams or weddings have been appended entirely. The strongest opportunity that any teenager has is the chance to celebrate their culture and identity, and this pandemic is singularly responsible for removing that. To their argument about people working less in the pandemic, we've disproved this with evidence from Harvard Business School. To their point about mental health improving, the loss of funding for necessary community health resources clearly outweighs it. So at the end of the day, folks, I'm asking whether you believe that the lives lost from this pandemic weigh more than board games after dinner. I'm asking whether millions of students who aren't able to attend college and have jobs, does waking up an hour or two later sound that bad? Does our being self-motivated to learn or having more time to write songs match up with the fact that there are those less fortunate than us who don't have a chance to learn at all? We're coming from a place of privilege, but there are those whose voices aren't heard here. When will we listen to those voices? So here we are, the devastation of economic opportunities hurting mental health and forcing teens into poverty, educational opportunities that are necessary for teenagers to live successful futures, interaction opportunities to spend more time with your loved ones before they shuffle off the mortal coil, passion opportunities to engage in activities you love, like sports that can make or break your future, and opportunities to engage in beautiful cultural traditions that have kept your family going for centuries. It's abundantly clear that this pandemic has had a massive negative effect on every kind of opportunity that teenagers can have. To close, I want to recognize all of the people who have lost their lives and jobs through this pandemic, and the healthcare heroes who are fighting every single day to make sure that we stay healthy. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Swadesh. One clarification. How are when there is a loss in athletic opportunities for high school kids? How does that impact kids? I mean, how does that impact you?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things. The first thing is sports are a great chance for, as my first speaker mentioned, only 2% of these students actually go, students who are acquiring sports scholarships actually pursue sports. The remaining 98% actually use that as a path for education. So that's a huge demographic of people who no longer have access to that path for higher education. And that's quite a significant opportunity. Not to mention, it's a great passion, and there can be no higher calling than engaging in your own passions.
Got it. Awesome. Thanks, Swadesh.
Any other question?
I do, but I'll talk to you on the side. Thank you very much. Yes.
My brother.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thanks very much.
On team 2 gained opportunity would be, Sidhya Ganesh. Sidhya will be a freshman at Interlake High School this fall. Some of her hobbies are dancing, singing, teaching, and community service. She is interested in hackathons, problem solving, essay writing, and speech tournament. She spends her time doing community service, volunteering with a different organization such as Ravishing Women. Now, Sidhya, I must tell you that in your resume, what fascinates me is hackathon. I just wanted to learn about that one. That has been bugging me, okay? You can tell me all about it. And writing, as a teacher of middle school, and I taught writing for many years and so on, and a speech tournament. Now, I conducted like more than 10, 12, almost 15 years, I conducted speech tournaments, and you're volunteering. So, and your commitment for women, that's amazing. You guys are incredible. And I'll talk to you about in the closing argument, but go ahead, take the floor, Sidhya, and make your argument.
And thank you, Renton Creations. So my time starts now. Up till now, our team has discussed many branches of gained opportunities for high schoolers through this pandemic. Improved mental health, more family time, better sleep cycles, less work stress from school, and more time for hobbies, passions, and learning new skills. Through quarantine, I myself have experienced these gained opportunities. Before COVID-19, my only passions were dancing and singing. But now, I can also proudly call myself a teacher, a coder, a TEDx speaker, and a better version of myself in general. Isn't that amazing? Amidst all of the chaos around us, we all seem to be truly finding ourselves and growing as people. And this opportunity of self-reflection is changing our view of our own lives and the world around us. Now, I would like to present the final gained opportunity my team would like to share today, which is how this pandemic has given high schoolers the chance to understand the importance of adaptation and innovation. COVID-19 has prepared high schoolers for the challenges of the real world. It has shown us that life doesn't always go the way you plan. Change is the only constant, and challenges will continue to appear around every corner. But innovation, sense of community, and problem solving are the values that will always help you. Though these lessons are taught to us throughout our high school educational journeys, this pandemic has given us the opportunity to gain the experience of living in an era where we need to constantly self-innovate by finding new ways to connect with each other and strive to continue living our old lives with as much normalcy as attainable in new circumstances. Prom, homecoming, senior graduation, everything was canceled, but we still worked together to find ways to solve these problems. And at the end of the day, it was our teamwork and innovation that helped us all celebrate together, even though we all are apart. Amazing signs of adaptation have started to appear all around us. For example, it is incredibly inspirational to look at the efficiency with which school districts are conducting lessons and tests online. It is true that the experiences we high schoolers are going through are showing us that the toughest of times inspire the brightest of solutions. Many high schoolers, as we all know, have been physically separated from meeting their friends, and this can be hard. But more than anything, this has taught us all how important a sense of community is. This has triggered many teens to step into the realm of community service. According to CNN, there has been a 56% increase in high school community service since the start of the pandemic. This is the start of a wave of teens who put the community before themselves and work to spark change through every point in life. The last gained opportunity I would like to state today is high schoolers' increased value of challenges foretold. The occurrence of a pandemic was highly foreseeable. For example, even Bill Gates had mentioned in his TED Talk in 2015 that America is underprepared for a pandemic. And COVID-19's devastating effects are increasing our alertness to other trends that could have similar or even worse outcomes, such as global warming. Increased concern for our health will lead us high schoolers to make a change. Now, to make a few final rebuttals. Our opponents mentioned death many times, but as hard as it is, we can't control death or loss. And our opponents' impacts are related to death, but not clearly linked to how this pandemic has given high schoolers more or less opportunities. But our team has given you clearly linked short-term and long-term gained opportunities of this pandemic. We cannot control death, but we can control how we leverage the situation in a positive way to improve ourselves as the leaders of tomorrow. On the opposite team, Kriti stated about the Olympics and Tokyo's economic loss. But how is that related to the prompt? How is athletes' dreams and goals being crushed affecting majority of high schoolers from gaining or losing opportunities in this pandemic? Also, our opponents did not state any number for how many teens have claimed to have bad mental health. But CNN has given us a golden statistic. 90% of teens in a national survey have shared a positive impact on their mental health because of COVID. Also, the world will become all right. We've just taken a pause to learn new things and try new skills, and even our engagements will be back, trust me. But this current situation has given us gained opportunities. Next, to refute the point of job loss and economic impacts in COVID-19, according to CNBC Economy Times, less than 30% of high schoolers were actually employed before the pandemic, and only 46% of that portion of high schoolers said that their job loss has impacted them. Here we see that out of the 1.5 million high schoolers in America, only less than 0.123% have faced a real impact. For teens whose parents have lost jobs, they're still receiving a steady income from stimulus checks. CNN stated that many parents are actually filing for unemployment to receive stimulus checks, which are actually paying them more than their jobs. So here we see that this is actually a gained opportunity for high school. Our team has refuted our opponents' points about mental health, education, sports, and we have also found weak links in their cases related to death. We have knocked over the point about the economy and job loss, and we've also proved 9 points about gained opportunities for high schoolers due to the pandemic. All in all, COVID-19 has granted us the biggest opportunity to prepare ourselves for our future lives, to improve our mental health and learn new skills. It's formed the biggest army, a generation of resilient young leaders who will innovate, stand together, have the zeal to learn new skills, solve problems, and be better versions of themselves every single day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sidhya. So it's really, good one, good argument. But just curious about, our TEDx speaking. Can you just elaborate a little bit about that? Because I'm one of those who always use TEDx. Yeah, speak a little.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you mean mine or Bill Gates?
I'm just...
My TEDx. Okay, yeah. So basically, as I had said in my bio too, I've always been really passionate about community service. And over the years, it's kind of been this fire that's kind of grown inside me. So I just took a moment to think. There was a TEDx event happening in the COVID situation. So I thought, why not apply? And I gave a talk about the importance of youth serving the community. So one of the points that I mentioned was actually really close to my heart because I feel like it's our responsibility to give back to the community in any way. We all are here with a purpose. So that's what my TED Talk. And I wouldn't have gained that opportunity if it wasn't for COVID and my idle brain. So yeah.
No, I'm going to share with the team, later on afterwards. Would love to watch that. Okay. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I have a question for you. You said that there's a 56% rise in high schoolers doing community service during COVID. Is there a new form of community service that you took on during this COVID?
Yeah, so a lot of high schoolers have been, donating masks, sewing masks, and also food and clothes drives because there have been some families who live in homeless shelters who are struggling. So basically, that's the new forms of community service that are starting to emerge. And
right. So my question is, have you started something new that you didn't do before COVID in terms of community service?
Yeah, so basically I never explored teaching, but basically with a few of my friends, what we decided to do is start teaching young kids because I myself was like, okay, I'm getting a little bored. What should I do? It was kind of that starting phase of the pandemic. Everyone's like, we're at home. What do we do? So I was, young kids must be finding it so hard. So then we started to teach forensics and then creative writing, poetry, dance. So basically to keep them occupied.
Super. Thank you. I have a clarification question for Kriti. You mentioned that you were rebutting the opponent's point about, families not necessarily spending more time because kids in divorced families get tossed around. That's what you said, correct?
Yeah, so I was just kind of talking about how there's been a record high of parents that are getting divorced because of this pandemic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that kids are also suffering because of that, and their opportunity is lost, that they cannot spend that time with their families because their family has been broken up.
Do you, and if you don't have the answer, that's fine. Do you know what percentage of divorces are caused because of COVID? And hence separating. I'm just trying to understand what percentage of these kids being tossed around is because of COVID. I'm just trying to understand that.
Well, it's because the very much rising unemployment rate and the risen unemployment cause a lot of tension at home, because the parents are feeling like they need to get enough money to support their families, and that kind of tension causes a lot of families to break, and in that kids are getting tossed around and not really being with their family.
Thanks.
Incredible speaker that you are. As I said, I started my speech career probably in the 8th grade, long time ago. That makes me look older, which I am anyway. So, which is okay, because it's good to be old. You know what? Because we can say that when we have experience. For the people that we are looking as being a community leader, we can see that these are the people we are lacking in our society. And I studied leadership as a part of my doctoral program. One thing that we had a problem is in future, we need more leaders. So do not give up. Pursue that passion, pursue that hard work, and so on. That's what my suggestion for you. And
I'm blown away, because at your age, I don't think I was thinking and talking like you guys. So that's fantastic. Super impressed, super proud of each and every one of you. And see, the way I see debates is not necessarily as a winning and losing thing. It's a free exchange of ideas, right? And ideas that you don't agree with. Because if everybody agrees on everything, then that's boring. There's nothing to live for, right? So that's the way I look at debates, is what are the ideas being exchanged. And having said that, since introducing Team 1, I want to point out a couple of strengths and a couple of areas or opportunities for improvement, correct? I think you guys, Team 1, was very well researched, and you were very strong on data, which is excellent. However, that too much emphasis on data, I felt in a couple of cases, took away from the personal connection to the issue. You do, in any kind of where you're trying to convince somebody, I think the personal touch is more valuable than just throwing in numbers and data. So the way I look at storytelling, it should be a story that you're telling with your personal experiences, but it could be your firsthand experiences or experiences with somebody you know, your neighbor, your family, somebody like that, interspersed with data and numbers. Whereas what I saw was a lot of data and numbers, and then personal stories kind of interspersed here and there. So if you just reverse that around a little bit, I think you would have had a bigger impact on me just from that perspective. But other than that, I think the data and the research was A1. Nice job. See for Team 2?
Yeah, Team 2. Now, your resumes, when I look at it, your passion, the way that you do things, what are you? Are you humans or what? How many things you do? You do swimming, dancing, hackathoning, this and that, community service. How on earth would you will find time and energy at this particular age to be able to do that? So that actually makes me move my heart. So the debate, you have done some couple of areas. What I have seen is one or two speakers. What they did was they spoke really well, but again, balancing that personal connection and as well as giving that kind of a data. At some point, you went the other way around. Like data was a little bit. You could have probably given better data, I would say. And again, more stronger personal background or personal experience, I would say so. And that's what I saw. And the second point, the strength would be, I would say that someone who is able to imagine that, you are packing a gift, you need to have nice package, you need to tie nicely, and you also needs to put a nice bow on it. right? So that gives a whole presentation. So here and there, lacking of those things actually made someone probably a weaker argument or something like that. You don't have to shout, but at the same time, make sure that when it comes from your heart, as I said, it was lacking in here and there, but other people managed to pick it up very well, and they were able to do that. So imagine that marathon, right? One or first two runners are not doing really well, but the last runner was able to pick it up, or a middle runner or something like that. So that's what you have done. But again, I have to tell you that it's incredible what you have done. That's amazing. You have great career and great future. Continue to do the same thing. Don't worry about winning and losing. That's only, that's our job. And we just have to do, we call it as I said, try to find feathers on egg, right? Can you really find feathers on egg? You cannot, right? That's what we are trying to do here. And how can we pluck those feathers out of those eggs? We don't even have feathers, but we are trying to pluck them. So that's our job as judges. It's a bad job. Anyway, so that's what I would like to leave.
We've said, oh, winning, losing doesn't matter, but I know it matters to you guys. So let's be realistic about it. And here's what we did, right? So we each scored each participant on a score of 10. So each person was scored out of 20, adding Srinivas's G-score and my score for each person. So based on that, we came up with a total for team 1 and a total for team 2 team score. And for team 1, lost opportunities, they received 46.5 out of 60.
Right. But team 2, again, as Archana ji said, we have learned so many things from you. And it was at some of the points that I, as an educator, as an administrator, I did not even see from your angle, which you have done it. It's an incredible job. So I would like to say that, team 2 out of 60 has got 56 points.
Can I close the loop on the story from Adi Shankaracharya's debate?
Sure.
So they were both given one garland each, and back in the days, that's how they that was one of the ways they judged the winner or the loser, besides the argument itself. Because when you debate, you have to stay calm, relaxed. You don't scream, screech, and increase your body temperature. So any person in a debate who's going through those emotions, their body temperature increases, and automatically that wilts the garland flowers, and then you're no longer a strong or a good debater or an eligible debater. So that was how Shankaracharya went around India debating people, and the story. So if he was here today, 3,000 years later, he would be super proud of the beautiful way in which you all conducted yourselves. If you were each given a garland today, it wouldn't have wilted, trust me. You guys did a fabulous job. Congratulations.
Yeah. Again, as Archana ji said, that's really wonderful. Points, in terms of points, I'm still a public speaker as until today. I spoke anywhere from 5 people to all the way up to 2,000 to 3,000 people in audience. Okay? And as until today, I sit there and I give any kind of a lecture or whatever that may be, educational lecture back in India when I go there, or even public speaking on religious aspects and so on. Every time I evaluate, every time I ask if my wife is in the audience, she would correct me. See that one, you should have done this one better. I didn't like that piece or something like that. So I'm always constantly reflecting on myself and correcting myself to become a better speaker, reach out to every audience. And finally, I must tell that when, there are, you have people, if at all we put you on the debate there, you will have definitely 50% of the people who would be on your side and 50% on the second side. Definitely, if it's a public topic, right? Everyone would have got affected by, your topic, and other people also got affected by your examples and all the things that you have done in your debate. So I wouldn't say in a public setting, I would say that when both of you are the winners, and a huge congratulations. I'm impressed.
And all the kids, wow, you guys really rocked. It was very good. I could see the confidence, the way they talk, the way they put their points. It was very good.
Excellent.
And yeah, the moderators, your questions to them, and you rightly took them in the right path. So that was very good too. Thank you so much.
A lot of fun also meeting my teammates, and I feel like we got along really well. and I feel like I made a couple of new friends. So yeah.
Oh, yes, I really enjoyed hearing everyone's point of view and the oppositions and the unique points of the opposition brought up. And I had a lot of fun researching and writing my speech for this. And I think that me and my teammates had a lot of fun in our practice meetings and stuff.
Super.
I really enjoyed this experience personally. It was a really amazing debate. I was really challenged, especially by my opponents, and my teammates were amazing. I feel like I relate a lot to them, and yeah, it was a really great experience overall. And I want to thank everyone who's here, Renton Creations, the moderators, and everyone who participated.
I want to thank my teammates and the opposition for giving us such a challenge, and the moderators for giving us such a challenging topic to debate on, and also for the opposition for giving us such unique points that had our brains personally, our brains were stretched. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. So our brains are definitely stretched, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. We had to find ways to find a rebuttal or say something that could prove that their point is not as our point is superior to theirs, or vice versa for their team. And I really enjoyed that whole process, and I enjoyed the process of working with my teammates. And like Kriti said, I really felt that I related to my teammates, and we had lots of fun. So
excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
I think this was going to happen at some point anyway. But since that's the topic that we were discussing, yeah, it was truly a pleasure to meet with other people who are still passionate about, moving discourse forward, even in an age where opportunities are so clearly scarce. But keeping the debate inside the debate, yeah, wonderful to meet all of you. I'd hope to continue to stay in contact in the next couple of months, because what better way to spend the time that we now have than arguing with each other.
It has undoubtedly been an amazing experience, and I'm so happy to find such good friends through it. Lakshmi and Rishank, all the calls and preparation. Now when I look back, it's been so much fun. And I feel like every day has been a discovery with COVID. There's new things we're learning. And this debate itself, while debating, I've learned so much. And I will be forever thankful for this time and this opportunity. So thank you so much.